Okay, so welcome to lesson 4.6. This is from 4.6 in our book. We are going to be learning how to write equations in our slope-intercept form. So we've already done this in our last section that we did. That's the y equals mx plus b. We learned how to graph with that, so now we're going to learn how to write the equations. So slope-intercept form, I have that here for you again, is that y equals mx plus b. And then we talk about m is our slope, it says that here, and the b, including the sign in front of it, the plus or the minus, is our y-intercept. That means, where does our line hit the y-axis? That's the straight up and down one. We're going to learn to write the equation, so we're going to pick out the m and the b and actually put the equation together. So here are our steps. So in order to write an equation in slope-intercept form, we first need to find the y-intercept. That's called our b, and that is where the line hits the y-axis. And I put a little visual there for you. That's our straight up and down. So you just look at what point where it hits. It can hit it 1, it can hit it -1. Second step then is to find the slope. That's our rise over run. I'm going to write it as a fraction because you usually see it that way. And we also call that our m in the equation. So I'm going to circle the b too, because those are the two components. So then what we're going to do is we're going to put those into an equation. So we're going to end up with y equals m, and then our x will still stay there, and then we're going to end up with either plus or minus b, those two components. So we're really just looking for two pieces. The y will stay there, the equal sign will stay there, and our x will stay there. So this first example, if I give you the slope, this is your m, right? And if I give you the y-intercept, this is your b. We're just going to plug it into the equation. So I have y equals m, which is -3, and then I have x. I always want to put my x in there, and then our y-intercept is this 4, so it's a positive 4, so I'm going to put plus 4. So I just wrote the slope in and the y-intercept, or the b, my m and my b. That's it. That is how you write the equation given the slope and the y-intercept. So let's look at number 2. It's given to us a little bit differently. It says m equals instead of slope, and it says b. Again, we're familiar with the y equals mx plus b, so I'm going to put this in the equation. Y equals m, which is 3/4 x, and then plus b, but we have to make sure the sign in front of the number is accounted for. So since this is a -2, we're going to put -2. This is how it changes sometimes. If it's positive, it's plus. If it's negative, it's minus. Again, I just put in the m in the b. This is my equation, and I'm done. That's when you're given the slope and the y-intercept in some form of writing. Let's look at example 2. If you're given a graph. So to write the equation, first you find your slope by using rise over run. That's where you count how many go up and down and how many over. So you write it as a fraction, and then you find your b. To find the b, you look at the y-axis. And that's the up and down one. So I'm going to highlight it for you here. Oops. My highlighter. This is the y-axis. And the b is where the line hits the y. b equals where the line hits the y-axis, again the line. So this one's easy to pick out. So over here, I'm just going to write in my slope. I'm going to count from point to point. There's 2 points here. I'm just going to be careful. I think we want to make sure that we're counting. This is going up 1, 2. So my slope is 2, and I go over 1, 2 over 1, which when we write the equation, we want it to be in simplest form, so this can actually simplify to just 2. That's my slope. I went up 2, that's my rise. I went over 1, that's my run. And then to find the b, you just look at your line. This is my line here in red. Okay? On the highlighted part, that's the y-axis. So I need to see, where does my line hit? And I notice right here, and it even tells us 0, 2. Well, when x is 0, whatever's next to it is our b or our y. But I can see right on here it hits at a positive 2. So this would be 2. I can write it as an ordered pair, but I really don't need to when I write the equation. So now I'm going to put these things in my equation. This is my m. This is my b. So I'm going to go ahead and write my equation. Y equals m x. Those are the stuff that's in the black ink is the given. And then plus b. So I want to make sure if it's a positive 2, I put plus 2. If it was negative, I would have put negative. So that's how I write an equation from a graph. I find the slope by counting, and then I find the b by looking at my line to see where it hits the y-axis. Let's look at another example. To find my slope, again, I'm going to count from one point to the other. I go down 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I went down 4, which is a negative 4, and then that's going to be I run 1, 2, 3. I went over 3. So that's my slope right here, rise over run. I went down 4, so it's negative, and I went over 3. So I'm just going to rewrite it over here. That's my slope. I'm going to plug that into my equation in a second. Now my b. I just need to look at, and this is a little bit harder to see on my copy, but this is the y-axis that I'm highlighting right here. This, and my line hits right here, and if you notice, that's at negative 1. This is right on the y-axis at negative 1. So that is my y-intercept, also known as the b variable. So I have the two pieces I need for my equation now. Again, my equation is always y equals, and then my m, negative 4/3, and then I put the x next to the slope always, and then my other piece is my b. So since it's a negative 1, we put minus 1. So I have y equals mx plus b, and I just filled in my m, and I filled in my b. And I just wrote an equation from a graph. The last part is writing an equation from 2 points. So we're going to have to go back to our first 2 sections where we learned how to find the slope from a formula. I put that up here. This is our formula. And then what's nice is we will give you the b in one of the ordered pairs. So to find your b, you need to look at where x is 0. Whatever is next to the x, if it's 0, is your b. So automatically, I know my b for this one is a positive 5. So now what I need to do is I'm going to go back to, we're labeling our points again. This is x1, this is y1, this is x2, this is y2. I have to use my formula where I do y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. So then I will find, that will tell me my m. And then I can just pop those things into, because I've got my b here, I will pop those things into the equation. So let's go ahead and do the work for this. y2 I labeled over here as 5. y1 is negative 1. So it's 5 minus negative 1 on the top, which becomes a positive 6 if you use your calculator. On the bottom, my x2 is 0. I'm looking over here. And then my x1 is negative 4. So again, I'm looking 0 minus negative 4 is actually a positive 4. And then I'm just going to simplify to this becomes 3 over 2. And it's okay, we can have slope as a fraction as long as it's simplified. This is my m. I have my m, I have my b. So I'm going to write my equation. Y equals my m. We used the formula, and I got 3 halves. And then again, I'm going to put that right next to my x because my slope goes next to my x. And then my b. It's a positive 5, so I have to make sure to include the plus 5. So again, y equals mx plus b. I put the m and the b in, and this is my equation. I am done. Do one more example, and then we'll be done with this lesson. Okay, so again, right away, I know I have to find my slope by using this formula. And then one of these points is going to give me a b. So remember I said when x is 0, the number next to it is the b. So I'm going to put over to the side, b is equal to this positive 3 because the x is 0. Now the next part, I'm going to find my slope by labeling first. x1, y1, because it's the first x I see, because it's the first y I see. x2, y2. Now I'm going to use my formula. I like to use the boxes. y2 minus y1 over, and then x2 minus x1. I'm going to fill the numbers in. That tells me my m, which then I can put into my equation. So y2, I'm looking over here, is negative 5. y1 is positive 5. Looking at x2 is 1, and then x1 is 0. So negative 5 minus 5 would give me a negative 10 if you use your calculator. 1 minus 0 is just 1. If you simplify this, this will actually come out to just negative 10 as our slope, and it's okay to have a whole number for slope. So then here is my final piece. Sorry about that. I'm going to write my equation. Y equals m, which we figured out right here is that negative 10, and then you always put your x right next to it, and then it's either plus or minus b, depending on if it's positive or negative. That's a positive 3 we found up there. So this is my equation. So this is the learning target, writing an equation from given your slope and y-intercept either as words from a graph or 2 points.